Hello summoners, welcome back to another ProGuides video. My name is Nathaning and I'm here with the 12.3 mid-patch update. We'll provide updated tier lists for all 5 roles and follow up on balance changes from the patch. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss on any future content like this. Now let's go ahead and get started. First off, we'll be starting with our top laners. Janna top is being moved up to the OP tier on this patch. Her win rate as a top laner is insanely high, but what's crazy about this stat is that you have to take into account how many people int on it when they pick it without knowing how to actually abuse it in the right way. When it's actually played the correct way, and mentally unstable teammates don't tilt and start shrieking because of your pick, I guess the win rate is somewhere between 75 and 80%. It's just insanely broken, and will be until Riot figures out the way to nerf the strat. The thing is, Janna isn't the only champion that can abuse this, it's just that she's the absolute best at it. She can play the entire game with very low income, so you don't even feel that behind. Meanwhile, you're giving the rest of your team a super boost to their income and helping the carries reach their big spikes a lot faster than normal. Then, in late game team fights, you have all the OP utility that Janna normally contributes, and you just simply don't lose fights. Adding to our list of top laners for this patch is Rakan. Like Janna, he just abuses this new strat of abandoning top lane after just a bit of laning and never looking back. Instead of playing for level 3 like Janna does, with Rakan you want level 6. That's because his ultimate is a lot more impactful for making plays since it basically guarantees kills. For that reason, you really want to coordinate with your jungler so you can go ahead and get dives bot lane and force dragons as soon as you can for a quick soul. Later in the game, Rakan is one of the best champions in the game for engaging team fights. You run Ghost instead of Flash, so you're able to zoom all around, hitting your charm on all 5 opponents, and then Wing the biggest clump of enemies that you can. The more people master Zeri, the stronger this champion seems. Her win rate went from the 30s on release to the 50s now, and that's even after the nerfs that she got this patch. The Trinity Force build is the way to go. Don't be baited by those changes to her ultimate now critting. Bot lane is definitely better for her, but she's pretty strong in the top lane as well, so she makes the list here. One thing to note for Zeri top is that she really struggles with both Riven and Akshan. With how insanely OP Riven is, you'll definitely want to ban her. Ask a teammate to ban Akshan, and if the enemy top laner picks him, maybe even consider dodging. Due to how easily bruisers can itemize into magic resist now without totally wrecking their build, Teemo drops all the way down to the A tier. He's still overall pretty good, but he definitely shines most in a matchup where his blind hard counters your opponent, like when you have to deal with a Tryndamere or Camille. Vayne drops down to the B tier because she can't compete with other ranged top laners. She loses hard to most of them, especially the newly buffed Quinn, and isn't nearly as versatile when it comes into fitting team comps. The only reason that she isn't all the way down to the C tier is because she's definitely good if the enemy team stacks their team with at least 3 super beefy champions. Now for the jungle, here's our list. Janna is being bumped into the OP tier this time around, and not having her here since the buff was a little bit of an oversight. That last buff that she really got pushed her over the top. She's insanely strong in all areas. Diana's goal as a jungler is generally to power farm, but she's not one of those passive shy early game junglers that avoid enemy interactions at all costs. In fact, she's more than a capable duelist and can win 1v1 against most matchups that you run into. The few champions that you don't beat early, you just outpace them with her lightning quick clear and outscale them without much effort. She's also a god tier team fighter with a huge burst, extended DPS, and a huge engaging tool. She's just overall a 10 out of 10 champion and possibly the best jungler in the game at the moment. Master Yi is another super hard scaling carry in the jungle, but he's a bit more balanced out by having a pretty weak early game. Lack of early presence in such an early game focused meta makes him too inconsistent to belong in the S tier. Still, he can definitely make some comebacks if your team doesn't completely tilt and int the game before you come online. Warwick is pretty well rounded, but aside from 1v1 dueling, he doesn't really excel enough in any particular field to be an S tier. He's still plenty good enough to be in the A tier, but not amazing enough to be higher at the moment. While he hasn't directly been changed, the bruiser item shifts have made Xin Zhao a less consistent pick. Now when you snowball, he snowballs a lot harder, but when you don't pop off early, he doesn't just get to become useful no matter what, due to the insane tankiness that bruiser items used to give. TLDR, so good, just a little bit feast or famine. Shyvana is basically the ultra bad version of Diana. She wants to power farm just like Diana, but is a complete pushover when it comes to fighting early on. She's completely useless without her ultimate, and even when it's up, you're basically just an artillery mage with a single button. Yeah, the AP fireballs can be satisfying when you're super fed, but that doesn't make it good. Now here's our mid lane tier list. We knew the Ahri changes would make her better than she was, but we didn't think that they were quite enough at the start of this patch to push her into the OP tier. Well, we stand corrected on that one. Ahri is possibly the best mid in the game at the moment. She has great wave clear, high catch potential, and can build for a variety of different situations. Akali gets up into the S tier in this patch. In the right hand, she's a disgustingly strong assassin that can 100-0 backliners in a fight, without even needing to be fed. The only reason that she doesn't make the OP tier is because there are a couple of super hard counters in the game that make doing that next to impossible in fights. Specifically Lulu, who is both super strong and super popular as a support right now. She both reveals you in the Shroud and polymorphs you, denying you the ability to ever 5v5. Victor drops down to the S tier. He's still a super good pick, but some of his counters are rising in popularity, like the aforementioned Ahri and Akali. He can carry games, but you just won't absolutely stomp the lane and win for free like he was doing a couple of patches ago. While Malphite isn't the worst thing that you can lock in mid, he definitely isn't the best either. He has a huge one-shot potential, but the issue with that is that it's completely tied to hitting his ultimate. So anytime you're trying to team fight and the important carries on the enemy team have their flashes up, there's always the possibility that they flash your ultimate, rendering you completely useless. There's just really no reason to pick Malphite mid when Annie exists. She just does the same thing but better and more consistently with undodgeable spells. Kog'Maw gets bumped to tier because in the right hands and circumstances, he can be an impossible to deal with artillery threat. The key phrase there is in the right circumstances, and since those are far and few between, he can't be placed any higher than the B tier. Now let's move down to the bot lane. Zeri has moved up from the S tier into the OP tier. When her ultimate is up, she's the best champion in the game. She can kite and chase like no other, while melting anybody that gets in her way. She may be super reliant on her ultimate being up, but it's also a pretty low cooldown, so it's not like you have these massive windows of downtime where the enemy team can exploit you. The seemingly tiny buff that Tristana got has made her an incredibly strong pick, with her win rate going up nearly 4% since. Who would have expected 40 HP to make such a massive difference? Her laning phase is also super solid now, able to win most 2v2 lanes, and is backed by really good scaling thanks to her ever-increasing range. Add on the mobility from her resetting jump and the self-peel that you get from her ultimate, and she's an incredibly self-sufficient pick, which is a trait that ADC mains can definitely appreciate. Brand's buff this patch sorta just echoes what happened to Veigar a couple of patches ago. In an attempt to make Brand a better solo laner, Riot gave Brand some love, but they completely overlooked that Brand as a bot lane carry is pretty strong. He was already doing super well in that role, and now he's just doing even better. Meanwhile, mid is still barely viable. Draven gets bumped down to the A tier. He's definitely not bad, but to truly pop off and carry, you really need a support that can match your aggression to help you cash in your passive. Without an aggressive support, you usually just end up being bullied out by higher range champions. Ezreal gets knocked down not 1, but 2 tiers this time around. The thing about Ezreal is that his viability is entirely contingent on what else is good in the meta. When the meta was overwhelmingly filled with assassins, he was good because he could go Crown and Frozen Heart and be unkillable. But now that's not the case, his safety factor has lost some value, and when Ezreal isn't really a good pick, he's pretty much not worth playing at all. Finish off, we have our supports. Morgana isn't quite as deserving of being placed and considered in the S tier, so she's been knocked down a peg. She's definitely a super strong counterpick to things like hook champs or those that have super telegraphed engages like Vi or Hecarim ults, but outside of countering those, she doesn't provide enough utility to be considered equal to somebody like Soraka or Zillion. Again, this by no means that she's bad. You can pick Morgana up every game and get some pretty good results. She's just not quite at the same level as the others that are a little bit more well-rounded. Xerath also drops a tier on this list. There are too many mage supports in the S tier and one had to go. Xerath just isn't as consistently useful as Zyra and Lux, so he got the cut. We're adding Miss Fortune to the support section to the tier list, but we aren't doing this because she's good in the role. In fact, it's quite the opposite. We're adding her because she's awful, but being picked at a decently high rate, and we want to put the PSA out there for people to stop locking her in. Every time you do, you're griefing your team. You win lane for 10 minutes and then you quickly become useless. We even added a D tier to this section just to underline how bad she is. Seth makes the tier list for the exact same reason as Miss Fortune. He's an entirely useless laner as a support, providing literally nothing for his ADC while leeching their XP as he makes them 1v2. You can't justify the pick by saying that his ultimate provides peel because a ton of other champions can do the same thing while also being useful outside of peeling a single foe. And that wraps up things for our 12.3 mid-patch update. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Feel free to let me know your thoughts on where the champions fall in the tier list down in the comment section below. Also, check out our description for a link to join our Discord community. With the new year and new season started, we're bound to have some great content coming up for you guys. Best of luck on Summoner's Rift, everybody. Stay safe, stay healthy, and have a wonderful day. Peace.